So Google has just launched its fresh new flagship smartphones, the Pixel 6 and this here Pixel 6 Pro. It's bigger and it's certainly more expensive as well, starting at 849 quid when it goes on sale from October the 28th. That's 250 quid more than the standard Pixel 6. But maybe you've decided you want to spunk out that extra cash because you are a pro, and by pro I don't mean a prostitute, although you might be a prostitute, we're not judging here. And if you are a prostitute and you decide to go for the Pro, then clearly the earnings are good, so good for you. Maybe let's have another go at this. So I'm going to whip the Pixel 6 Pro out of its lovely shiny white box, take you on a full-on tour of the hardware and the software ahead of my in-depth review, which will be coming next Monday. And for more of the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So as usual, let's begin with a look at what you actually get in the box besides the mighty Pixel 6 Pro. So first up, we've got the usual quick start guide, warranty info, and the porky pin device to get your SIM in there. You've got one remarkably white Type-C to Type-C USB cable. And last up, usual Type-C to USB-A adapter, so you can transfer files and such forth from one phone to another. And that is it. No actual power adapter bundled in there or headphone adapter, because you don't actually get a headphone jack on the Pixel 6 Pro either. So the Pixel 6 Pro is a 6.7-inch beast, certainly bigger than the 6.4-inch standard model, but it doesn't actually weigh that much more. It's 210 grams, so got a decent heft to it, but not too bad for a phone this size. And this is one glossy glass morpho as well. You've got Gorilla Glass Victus on the front end as well as the back end, and those panels are separated by a bit of polished alloy frame action. Now, one of the advantages of Gorilla Glass Victus is the fact that it doesn't shatter upon impact with, hard surfaces. Or I have reviewed Gorilla Glass Victus smartphones in the past and dropped them face first onto concrete. They're generally absolutely fine, although they do tend to scratch up a little bit easier than previous generations of Gorilla Glass. So we'll be keeping tabs on the Pixel 6 Pro to see if it does get all scuffed up after a couple of weeks of use. And the Pixel 6 Pro is fully IP68 water and dust resistant as well, so you can rock it in the hot tub at night. I know you've got a hot tub because you've got enough money to spunk out on this thing. And yeah, the Pixel 6 Pro is certainly a hand filler, although no worse than a lot of other smartphones in 2021. It's quite slippery as well, although you do have that jutting camera chassis, which helps to give it a bit of traction if you stick it on the arm of the sofa or whatever. Nice, simple, smart design. I do like this cloudy white model. You can also grab it in stormy black if you want something a bit more moody, a bit more Batmanish. Or also, Google is offering the Pixel 6 Pro in Sorta Sunny, which is lovely and bright and cheerful. Now, at the time I shot this video, I'm not actually even sure if that Sorta Sunny model is even coming to the UK. Would kind of feel like rubbing salt into the wound, given we're about to plunge into several months of perpetual darkness. Now, that camera chassis isn't seamless. There are some clear visible joins in there, but at least the fact that it stretches right across the arse means that the phone doesn't wobble about when it's laying on a desk and you're poking the screen. As for around the front end, that screen does curve gently around the edges of the Pixel 6 Pro, but there are reasonably sized bezels surrounding the display as well. Nothing too tragic, thankfully, and only a tiny little selfie cam orifice poking its way into view at the top end of the screen. Considering what a flippin' massive phone this Pixel 6 Pro is, it does have a teeny tiny little SIM tray tucked away inside, and only a single SIM card can actually fit inside of there as well. As you can see there, it's not reversible and there's no space for micro SD memory cards. If you do want a second SIM, you'll have to go eSIM. Before we dive into the Pixel 6 Pro's specs and various features and everything, Google did very kindly send me the Pixel 6 Pro official case, so let's whip that on out too. And just like the case for the original Pixel 6, this is once again a translucent effort made from plastic. In fact, it's over 30% recycled plastic. It's a very snug fit indeed. It's like a warm embrace for your Pixel 6 Pro, and it does actually cover the buttons here on the right edge as well, but it's a soft touch effort, so you can actually still press them, which is always useful. Even though it is fairly transparent, as you can see there, you can't quite make out the lovely crisp white finish here on the Google Pixel 6 Pro once that case is in place. So naturally, this being the latest Google smartphone, it is of course sporting the fresh new Android 12 OS. And so far I'm really liking the new aesthetics here in Android 12, got to say. Drag down that notifications bar from anywhere like so. You've got some fast access toggles on there, really nicely presented, like a Google Pay if you want to get that on the go. And from here you can fast access the power settings as well, because if you long press the power button, that by default will bring up the Google Assistant. As usual, you can piddle about with the home settings like so, and from this little mini menu you can also fast access the wallpaper and style sections. You can change up the wallpaper and the general aesthetics. Google seems to be leaning heavy into a floral theme here on the Google Pixel 6 Pro by default. As you can see, you've got various different color combos, and I really like how when you change the color of that wallpaper, as you can see there, the actual colors of the Google app icons also changes to match and mirror that primary palette. So for instance, if we now change up the wallpaper and make it something a bit more red, once again the icons and everything will change to match it. Of course, naturally, I'm going to stick with my usual geeky animation shenanigans, all from wall.alphacoders.com, just in case anyone's curious. Now, there's lots of other great features in Android 12. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to show off many of them here on the Pixel 6 Pro until my full review, so I have to stay tuned for that, for my full thoughts on all of that shenanigans. But I can show off, however, the in-display optical fingerprint sensor, which is replacing the rear-mounted fingerprint sensor on previous Google Pixel smartphones, and so far seems nice and nippy and responsive, as you can see there. Got your little guide and print there on the always-on display, so you know exactly where to tap. Yeah, so far no worries on that front. Although unfortunately there is no face recognition here on the Pixel 6 Pro, just like the standard Pixel 6, so it is fingerprint all the way. As for storage, well, you can't expand the 128 gigs of default storage here on the Pixel 6 Pro, no microSD memory card support, but you can throw extra cash at Google to double that storage to 256 gigs if you want. It is UFS 3.1. Unfortunately though, if you do want that 256 gig beefcake model, well, your only color option is black. Now that 6.7-inch OLED display here on the Pixel 6 Pro is absolute eye candy. It's a Quad HD Plus panel, 3120 by 1440 pixel resolution. So even though it's pretty damn spacious, you've got pin sharp visuals no matter what you're up to, checking out photos, just watching a bit of Netflix or Disney Plus. Got full HDR support as well, of course, so nice natural looking colors and sharp contrast as well when you're watching HDR content on the likes of Netflix, but also really punchy, vivid, poppy, in-your-face colors when you are streaming a bit of Pixar or something like that on Disney Plus. And you've also got an auto refresh option here on the Pixel 6 Pro as well, so that display can automatically scale from 60 to 120 Hz depending on what you're up to, what app you're using, in order to provide that maximum fluidity when needed. And Google did mention in its briefing that the Pixel 6 Pro model was capable of dropping all the way to 10 Hz refresh as well when absolutely nothing's happening on screen. So hopefully that should help to preserve the battery life, keep it going all day long, no worries. And as I mentioned before, there's no headphone jack here on the Pixel 6 Pro, sadly, but you do get some reliable Bluetooth 5.2 support, and you do also have a stereo speaker setup. It's rather loud on that top volume, but still respectable clarity as well. But what about the performance? Well, one of the headline features here on the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro model is the fact that it's using Google's new Tensor chipset, freshly designed for these Pixel smartphones, and here on the Pro model, that's backed by 12 gigs of DDR5 RAM. And certainly if you're into your geeky chipset shenanigans, then this sounds like an absolute blinder. It's got its own custom TPU, which can help with the machine learning features buried away here in the Pixel 6 Pro. So for instance, you've got lots of text-to-speech and speech-to-text tools. One of the most exciting of these for me is the call screen feature, which thankfully is coming to the UK. It's not going to be US only. This basically allows you to, if you've got an incoming call, you can just press a button that says call screen. The phone will then ask whoever's calling you, what you want, mate? And then the person who's calling can be like, hey, I'm Jeff from Crap Marketing Limited, here to waste your time. And then what will happen is you'll actually get a transcription of what they've just said on the screen, and then you can decide whether to answer the call or say, bugger you, Jeff, off your The Tensor chipset also boasts a 20-core GPU, so it should be spot on for gaming. Check back my full review for more on that, as well as a separate security core for running all of your sensitive tasks, and that Titan M2 security chip to store your private data. You've also got built-in 5G support in that Tensor chipset as well, but it is just sub-6 here in the UK, whereas I believe it is sub-6 and millimeter wave in regions like the US, where you've already got that technology available. You've also got Wi-Fi 6E support built in here as well, so on the connectivity front, mwah. And I also noticed buried away in the spec sheet that the Pixel 6 Pro model actually supports ultra-wideband tech as well, which is something that you don't get in the standard Pixel 6. As for your battery tech, well, it's a rather capacious 5,000 milliamp cell crammed into that Godzilla-like frame, so hopefully should keep you going all day long, especially if that Tensor chipset proves to be as energy efficient as Google is bigging up. Unfortunately, not super fast on the recharge speeds, 30-watt charging. Of course, you don't get the adapter bundled in the box, you'll have to provide your own, otherwise throw even more cash at Google for one of theirs. Alternatively, if you've got a spare wireless charging stand kicking about the place, where you've got full Qi wireless charging support here on the Pixel 6 Pro, just like the standard Pixel 6. And if you've got the second gen Pixel stand as well, then 23-watt wireless charging guaranteed there, and a good bit of reverse wireless charging to boot. Now let's end this unboxing of the Pixel 6 Pro with a squint at that triple lens camera tech. So the camera hardware has been completely overhauled for the Pixel 6 series. The primary shooter is a 50 megapixel effort with built-in optical image stabilization, so a major boost in the megapixel count, and also the camera sensor size as well. It's 2.5 times bigger than the Pixel 5 Gen, so should prove really hot for the low light shots, not quite so dependent on the software smarts. At any point you can swap to the 12 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter complete with anti-edge distortion tech. And the big whoop here on the Pixel 6 Pro compared with the standard Pixel 6 is the fact you've got a 48 megapixel telephoto shooter that's capable of up to 4 times optical zoom. You can also get up to 20 times super res zoom, so that's a combination of the optical and digital zoom as well. And that lens again has built-in OIS. As you can see, the fact my hands are trembling, but the image is remaining quite stable. You've got the standard camera modes here on the Pixel 6 Pro, like the portrait, good old trusty of course, the fresh new motion mode, which I can't actually show off unfortunately, but as you can see there, it's supposed to be quite good for any moving subjects. It has a nice sort of blurry effect in the background, so again, check back for my full camera review for more on that. You got the night sight mode, of course, when things are getting a little bit dark. And if we swap to the final modes, there's just a couple of extra bonus bits there. And then for all your video shenanigans, you're shooting in full HD by default because you'll probably want to boost that up to 4K ultra high res, and you can shoot at either 30 or 60 frames per second. And then last up around front here on the Pixel 6 Pro, you've got an 11.1 megapixel selfie shooter, and this can give you a slightly more pulled back 94-degree view if you want to try and fit lots of friends in, if you have friends. And this can shoot video at 4K resolution as well, so handy if you want to do a good bit of vlogging on the go. So that right there, in a nutshell, is the Google Pixel 6 Pro. Now, as I say, stay tuned for next Monday where I'll be bringing you my full in-depth review of the standard Pixel 6. I'll follow that up with a Pro review, and I will be bringing you my full in-depth Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro camera review and comparison next Monday as well. In the meantime, it would be absolutely ruddy lovely to hear what you fine folk at home think of the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, if you're tempted by one or the other, or neither, or both. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!